Welcome back, welcome in, welcome all to another episode of the Like That podcast. With your host as always, Nico, Nick, Brooklyn, and guys, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Merry
Happy holidays.
uploading on Christmas Eve. That's a little, we're a day early because I can't imagine too many people are gonna have the time to listen to us tomorrow, and there's a lot of football tomorrow.
Uh, I,
Lots.
instead of like all Christmas music and everything, I think I actually might just be blasting tomorrow's episode throughout my house. So, we're opening presents. We'll be hearing me talk about my pick of the week in my house. So,
Instead of the reruns of the Christmas story on the TV, I'm just gonna have Victory Monday rolling the whole time we're opening gifts.
I'm actually just gonna AirPlay my phone to the TV, and my whole family is just gonna watch all of our TikToks.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh,
And then you guys can read the comments out loud about all the Denver Broncos
oh
fans
yeah.
chewing
And
you
by the
out.
way, take that L to the face, Denver. I know I rode you on the spreadsheet, but I'm happy to take that L on the spreadsheet and watch you guys get just D down by Mr. Lawrence himself.
I fully agree with that. This week we got a couple different things coming at you. We have our Christmas lists that we all made, just our own individual parlays for all the games tomorrow, and then we've got our prop picks at the end of the episode here. But before we jump into those, little high fives all around for the boys. Obviously spreadsheet wise, we've had some great weeks, we've had some not so great weeks, but for the first time, and I need to look this up to see specifically what week it would be, but for the first time since week 11, the boys are all over 50%.
Ugh, about time, dude. It was a rough few weeks over here.
Yeah, we, we,
You
we,
know,
we've
I
been
was just I was just trying to catch up.
we've been hiding the scores. Not necessarily like you're hearing our picks each week, but now to give a quick overlap, on now in episode 13 of this podcast, since week 5, it's a very tight race. I lead the podcast with 88 correct picks out of 170 and 2 pushes. Brooklyn right behind me with 86 and Nick at 85. So this is a week that we could. I've been sitting in first place for I think the last 4 episodes. Anything can happen this week. Uh,
And especially, I'm just giving a little pat on the back to myself. Last week, much needed week for me on the spreadsheet. I think I only got like 2 or 3 wrong.
11, 4, and
Um,
1. That's a really good week.
yeah, much needed week. Definitely needed it. Looking to do the same thing this week though. So watch out.
Your last two
I'm
weeks,
coming.
you're averaging about a 63% hit rate.
Whoa.
So
We're trying to keep it
Christmas
going.
came a little bit early.
Yeah, let's hope the luck doesn't run out.
But yeah, before we jump into the spreadsheet and all the picks of the week, let's start with some Christmas lists. Which if I find any Christmas music, I'm gonna put the over under on that at like minus 200. That it actually does not come in, but there's no Christmas prop button unfortunately. But to jump into it, my Christmas list parlay. I submitted it right before we started recording. Mine ends up being at plus 809 for my 3 legs. In the Dallas Washington game, I'm gonna take Javonte Williams over 16 plus rushing attempts. That's at minus 120. Through the season, he's gone 9 for 15. 3 of those games, also, he had 15 rushes or ended with 15 rushes. So, you know, could be 12 for 15, but it's 9 for 15. Washington, their defense, I mean, it's been abysmal, but against running backs, they averaged 25.6 DFS points, which that's 27th in the league. And my game script with Josh Johnson starting for the Commanders, I think this is a game that Dallas completely dominates, and there's going to be carries for Javante there. Moving forward, I went a little crazier with my second leg. It's Christmas. You gotta, growing up as a kid, you ask your parents for something that you don't think you're gonna get, and you're hoping maybe Santa brought it over. But for me, that's gonna be Justin Jefferson. What a season it's been for him. But I'm gonna take him to have 80 plus receiving yards. That's at plus 185. Had 80 last week, and we saw Brosmer come in, and he kind of 6 catches, 8 yards, or 6 for 8 on the receptions and target rate. But I think 80 plus yards there is something that can happen pretty easily. And then my last leg, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs team under of 12.5. That's an alternate. I took it at minus 135. We're seeing the first NFL start for QB3 of Kansas City, Chris Aludakun. No Rashi Rice again, so this is going to be an offense that is very limited. And against the Titans, there were some missed field goals, but once Minshew was out of that game, I mean, geez, that was a rough watch. So plus 809, Javante 16 plus rushing attempts, Jefferson 80 plus receiving yards, and the Kansas City Chiefs under 12.5 points.
Nice. That's a pretty good lay. Uh, First of all, thanks for actually saying Aludakun's last name because I didn't know how to pronounce it. So I'm glad that somebody else had to say it first before I
Yeah,
did.
when we got to that round, I was like I have him at the top two, and I'm like, how do we go about this one?
I watched that whole
Uh,
game. What a game it was last week. But yeah, I'm 90. It's either a Ludacun or a Lodacun, but we're close regardless.
Pretty close. That's all that matters. I'm going to share my 3 picks now. My total parlay odds is at plus 473. So very much lower than what Nico just shared. All these odds are favored though. I have George Pickens over 70.5 receiving yards. That odds come in at minus 111 on DraftKings. Commanders ranked 24th against receivers this season. He is almost averaging 100 yards receiving in his last 10 games. And my game script is a little bit different from Nico's. I just see Dak airing out the ball early and often in this game. The Commanders' defense is rough. They're ranked 32nd in the league. I mean, this is pretty good matchup wise. Second leg, I have Max Brosmer under 30.5 pass attempts. So kind of coinciding with Nico's Justin Jefferson receiving yards lay. However, it still definitely could happen. This is his second start. His first start was against a really good Seattle defense. He did have 30 passing attempts exactly, actually, in his first start, funny enough. But, I mean, the only way that I see this happening is if Minnesota goes down. But, I mean, in this game, I think Detroit has something to play for. And if, God forbid, Vikings do get a lead somehow, I just see them running the ball out. I really don't see them risking airing it out at all. So, few key factors into that leg. And last leg, I have under Debo Samuel, under 4.5 receptions. He's averaged basically 4.5 receptions in his last 5 games. So the line's kind of 50-50 there. Commanders are starting John Johnson at QB this week. No Mariota, no Daniels. So you don't necessarily know how this offense is going to be. Especially, I know it's against a bad Dallas defense, but we just seen the Commanders get shelled the last few weeks. So anything can really happen. And Debo, I mean, he's playing for incentives. I'm pretty sure he needs 2 catches to receive 250K signing bonus. So, I mean, I could see him getting a lot of targets, but just with the production under center, I don't like it. So, those are my 3 picks.
A lot more
Fair
confidence this
enough.
week. I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, we got to ride out these last 2 weeks of the NFL season strong. I'm very confident. I've been doing a lot of research, so gunning it. We're gunning it.
Cannot argue with a guy who does his research there. All right, well, going with mine, my Christmas not lotto lay, but putting 3 picks together here for me. One in each game. I want to start off with McLaurin over 50.5 receiving yards, currently at minus 110. For this one, for the same exact reason that we saw, Nick just take Pickens, we think Dak's just going to start airing it out. With that being said, that offense is so lethal to the point where I think the Commanders are going to be playing from. I mean, we can obviously predict that they're not going to win that game, but I think that the Commanders are going to be playing from behind the entire time, and I think McLaurin's got a good shot to get those targets, and he's also averaged 58, a little bit over 58 through his last 5. Moving on, a lot of Kuhn, right? Close enough.
A
Yeah,
lot of
it's close.
coon, a lot of coon.
A little cocoon, same thing.
Hakuna Matata.
Not a lot of coon.
Going under 29.5 pass attempts from here at minus 110. Last week for Tennessee, they were actually able to limit the Chiefs to only about 43 offensive plays, given injuries and all that. But there's a lot of time possession control. And as we know, Sean Payton is not a flashy winner by any means. And I think that, with Denver needing to get a win coming back from that loss to Jacksonville last week, this is going to be a game where they probably dominate a good amount of time possession to me. And I don't think that Andy Reid's going to put a lot of Kuhn into any position where he's just going to have him just heave it out over and over and over again. Last pick here for this one. Going to go Gibbs over 4.5 receiving at minus 135, averaging about 7 receptions through his last 5. I think the game script for here is that the Lions are going to try just to win by any means necessary. You know that Minnesota Vikings defense unit is pretty respectable in a lot of stances here, but I think that this is a game where they're going to play to their strengths, and that's what we see from the Lions every week. Pass game's always on point, And if there is any sort of issue connecting midfield long distance, I think that Gibbs is going to get those short connections. I think he should cross over 4.5.
Santa, please, please. All I want for Christmas is all of us to make money.
Please, Santa.
Um,
Jesus.
but yeah,
That's cringy.
I'm not saying put all 9 in a lay together, but I might sprinkle a whole dollar on it, just for fun.
If you do so, that comes out to currently plus 19,862. Put my fan cash on it, $2 on it to pay out 411. If you got some loose change in the car, might as well. Why not?
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of been a tradition on Christmas that like I've always been given like a $1 scratch off lotto ticket, and I mean this is essentially the same. This is my stocking stuffer.
Basically. Yeah.
But
Just a little fun.
a lot of football to get into. Let's jump right into it. We've got our first matchup on Christmas Day, and there's a button to be pressed.
Yes, sir.
We got a pick of the week.
All right. So starting off Christmas Day hot, we got Dallas going down to Washington. They are now favored at -8.5. When I took this line, they were -7. So actually, like this line changed like 15 minutes ago. Pretty crazy. I still like them though at -7.5. Total at 50.5. I'm taking Dallas. Dallas, they are 3-4 against the spread after a loss this season. Javonte Williams and Quinnen Williams, they were both limited, but they're both probably going to suit up this weekend. Dak has a really good all-time record against Washington. He is 12-2 all-time. He has 27 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions against Washington. So 14 games total, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's pretty good. And I really don't see him turning over the ball, at least carelessly, against a 32nd ranked defense. They scored 17 points against the Chargers, which obviously is tied for the second lowest this season. The other time was against the Cardinals, which was a very surprise primetime game. But last time they played Washington, a few weeks ago, they scored 44 total points. Jake Ferguson actually was the key factor in that game. He saw a lot of the targets. He got into the end zone twice. The receiving room was just dominant that whole game. And on the Washington side, I already mentioned earlier in the Christmas lay, they're starting John Johnson this week. Again, don't really know what the offense is going to be able to develop from that. Running back room has been a little shaky. They kind of go between Bill and Chris Rodriguez every week. One of them kind of has a good week when they start, and then the other one kind of sucks. We saw in the Giants game, it was Bill, even though Chris Rodriguez was kind of the guy that everybody thought was going to get the touches. Washington, they're just a bad team against the spread this season, 4-11 total. They're 2-8 against the spread in conference NFC games this year, which is really bad. But they're 2-2 in division games, so that's also something to keep in mind. Especially with this Dallas team, I know they're not playing really for anything. The playoffs are already kind of set in their division, but I still think that this offense has a lot to play for. CeeDee Lamb has already hit over 1,000 yards, and he missed 4 or 5 games this season, which is pretty fucking crazy. So I think this offense is just going to do what they did last time they faced each other and just dominate. And if it was Mariota, I'd be a little shaky just with the ability for him to kind of get out of the pocket and move. And we kind of saw him stay into it against Philly last week, but with no Daniels or Mariota, I just think Dallas is going to dominate.
Yeah, I looked into it. Does anybody know the last time that Josh Johnson has started an NFL game?
No, I don't
No.
have a guess for you. I would be
Couldn't
way
tell
off.
ya.
You got to go all the way back to 2021, and which it was at Week 16, Ravens versus the Bengals. Threw for 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. So, granted, not bad on paper, but that's 4 years ago. And now he's suiting up. I mean, yeah, we've seen some.
Look at Phillip Rivers.
Hey, point exact. And Josh isn't 44. But
He also wasn't Phillip Rivers back
So
then.
on the highest scoring offense through 10 weeks at one point. Like, don't forget that.
yes,
either.
very
Come on.
very different situations. I mean, all of us are on Dallas here. I can't stand behind. When it was at the line, I think when I made this 2 days ago, it was at 6.5, and I think that's way too generous for Josh Johnson. 8.5. I'm a little skeptical, but I still think that with how bad the Commanders' defense is, there really isn't a route where they can succeed here, and that's also why. I mean, spoiler, talking about my Christmas Day lay, but I think Javante is going to have a really good game.
Yeah. Well, moving to my point of view for this game, I also am on Dallas here. I think that the spread jumped up to 8.5. A little worrisome because both defenses really aren't great, and there's a lot of unpredictableness with how that. I almost called them the Redskins. The commander, the Commanders' offense can perform every week.
Whoa!
Yeah, please don't cancel me, Eddie. But
Uh,
yeah, there's a lot of uncertainties with how that offense can perform every week with Washington, and now that Terry's kind of found a rhythm, you could say there's some room for error, but I still lean here with Dallas. Going with my player to watch, though, want to highlight Ryan Flournoy for all you TikTok commenters who say, "Oh, you choose James Cook, you choose Puka Nacua. Of course they're gonna go off. We all expected it. Yeah, let's go for a wild card here. Going for Ryan Flournoy, as Al Michaels throws it out, and then everyone calls him Flournoy. Going with Ryan Flournoy here has been a guy who has really drawn some attention in some random moments of a game. Against Detroit, projected 3 points fantasy wise, but lit up with 26, 115 yards receiving and a touchdown. He also, if you watch the Dallas games, he gets a good amount of random red zone targets. So going to lean on him here with a bad defense. And if this game gets out of hand, I even think when they pull the starters that he's still on the field there. That's all I got for this game.
I'll also really quickly mention my player to watch. Mine's gonna be one of those guys where people are like, "Oh, it's obvious," but I don't care. It's Jake Ferguson. He scored twice against I almost just said the Redskins too because you just said it. The Commanders
The
got
football team.
was second in the team in targets against the Commanders last matchup. Got into the end zone twice. He had I'm pretty sure he was close to 25 fantasy points. It's championship weekend. It's a good matchup. Commanders suck against tight ends, so that's my player to watch.
I need it bad. I don't know about you guys, but I'm competing in 3 fantasy championships, and I have Jake Ferguson in 2 of them. So that'd be cool.
I'm in 2 and don't have Ferguson, but I have somebody else that would have been great to have. But we'll get into that later on.
Yeah, for all those that are in your fantasy championships, good luck. I hope you listen to us, and I hope everybody goes well for you.
Same.
But it's great. First 2 games on the slate, and we have to press that button twice.
Clicking it.
We got a pick of the week.
Past is the past for a reason. We saw the Bills let me down hard there on a double-digit spread. My fault for kind of being too ambitious with that number. For this one, we're going to approach over a touchdown for sure, but for good reason. Going here with Detroit minus 7.5. I've already staked that now. Talking about this game, very important for Detroit. I know that they had a rough loss and not even close to covering the spread because they were favorites last week against the Steelers. Not going to remind you, Nico, there, but we all saw that. Like that was rough. But that makes this game all the more important, and they honestly couldn't have gotten an easier matchup. And I say easier in terms of that defense now has a chance to make themselves look a little bit better. Going here minus 7.5 with Detroit, and for those reasons exactly against the Minnesota defensive unit, aside from the one loss that they had against them earlier, they have averaged about 30 points. Going against, again, with that now leading for their offense, we all have known how lethal that offense can be. Amon-Ra is expected to be playing tomorrow, and honestly, in every game that really matters for them right now, you can't really hold anything back for them at this point. 4th in offensive EPA, have always been within the top 5 there throughout the entirety of the season, and in points per game. Brought this up with the Bills last week, and Dawson Knox, he let me down, but Detroit, 2nd in points per game, right around 30.1, and going then hand in hand with that offense, 3rd in yards per game, 378.7. The Vikings now going to that side. I mean, Max Brosmer starting this week. I am more than happy to bet against him. Again, that offensive line unit also ranks as one of the bottom 3 worst in terms of sack percentage. So they give up a lot of volume, a lot of pressures. And when it comes to a defensive line unit for the Lions that is talented, ranks top 10 in sacks, I think Max Brosmer is going to have a lot of trouble tomorrow, or I guess today, getting out of that pocket or really having much time to see any play develop. Going into now, one additional stat. Thank you very much, Nico. 15-1 after a loss, 14-2 against the spread. Everything in this game, not only just points in favor to a Detroit win, but I think with the way that offense for Minnesota has looked so shaky And now with Max Browser coming back in for his second start, not too much of a high ceiling there. Detroit should have a good chance to blow this one away.
Yeah, I wanna give a personal just fuck you to Pittsburgh. That game last week, my pick of the week for Detroit at -7. That it looked good for a little bit. I mean, they went down early, and then they're on the 3 yard line. They don't they turn the ball over on fourth down, and that's a 7 point swing right there. And then the Gainwell touchdown before halftime. I mean, that was just bullshit. Just I mean, a legit catch, a legit touchdown. But how often do you see something like that? It was absurd. And yeah, you talk about the 15-1 record with Dan Campbell after a loss. That one was last week. But looking at the spreadsheet, all three of us are on Detroit for good reason. I mean, Brosmer, he looked terrible against Seattle, against the Giants defense, which also is not great. He kept Minnesota in the game, but they weren't really able to do much offensively. But with that being said, I do think Detroit takes care of this game, but I think Brosmer does have to throw the ball. And yeah, going back to my Christmas Day lay, I think Jefferson does have a good game.
I'm also on Detroit. I'm looking for revenge. Last time Detroit played Minnesota, I took Detroit as my pick of the week, actually. I'm pretty sure that they were favored by over 10 though. And that whole game, Goff really had a hard time in the pocket. Minnesota had a really good they did a really good job of not letting him settle. And I think Detroit's going to be prepared for that this time. Their offensive line struggles that they had the first time that they played aren't necessarily there. I know last week it looked pretty rough. Pittsburgh did pretty well. I know we mentioned before that Pittsburgh line looked pretty rough, but last week they did pretty well. I don't think that happens against Minnesota twice in a row. Detroit's playing to make the playoffs. Dan Campbell, he's going to pull something. I like Detroit, mostly just because I'm looking for revenge. So
Yeah. Also, the line when you took it was at 9.5.
oh
Um,
well,
still
close
have
enough.
or you guys talk about your players to watch?
Right.
I can start off there. Going Jamison Williams, and I know I said Amon Ra is expected to play, but to me something stands out when you are playing behind Amon Ra and you're still the number 11 wide out in fantasy. And not just that, in the last, I believe it was either 9 or 8 weeks, he has put up 5 touchdowns. Not multiple in a game, but good stretch there. He had 3 in a row from week 9 to week 11. And just, the fact that he gets so many deep targets alone gives him so much volume, so much opportunity to go off. And I saw a stat around Thanksgiving time where there's a couple of guys who you typically will see perform during a holiday game, and it's Dak and it is Jamison Williams. And I'm going to ride the hand here for him to catch a big. I would say, let's go longest catch here for him, 30+ yards, and also logging a touchdown against Minnesota.
Wow, clip it. I
Spicy.
just clipped it actually.
Actually, isn't that a
I'm also
button?
Oh, right. I think it is. No, it is not.
Oh, oops. Sorry.
Well,
Next week.
Well, that's an idea for next week, right? I'm going with another lion. I'm going with Isaac Tesla. I've mentioned this guy. We've actually talked about this guy a good amount on the podcast. For some reason, actually not for some reason, he gets open in the end zone. I mean, he has a decent amount of red zone targets when he gets in there. He's kind of been played into as the wide receiver 3. He has a few touchdowns. If Amon Ra's not 100% going into this game, I see him being a little sneaky factor getting into the red zone. Maybe gets a few targets. If he's open, though, and I mean, he has a few crazy catches this season alone, especially for a rookie. So I like him. I think he could get open in the end zone if the opportunity's there.
And I know there's one more Christmas game on the slate, but we're saving that for the rapid fire round. 36.5 point total for that Denver Kansas City game. We'll get to that in a little bit. But
Insane.
jumping into Sunday, one of my favorite matchups that we have this week. It's going to be Houston at the Chargers. Line is -1.5 in favor of the Chargers, a total of 39.5. And for me, I know the offense for Houston didn't look prolific last week against the Raiders, but this is a matchup that is so great for that Houston defensive line. A defensive line that ranks second in pressures. We saw what it did to Josh Allen a couple weeks back. And you even saw last week against the Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders covered the spread, but that was, I'd say, more fault of the offense rather than the defense. But you're basically picturing the scariest defensive line in football versus the worst offensive line in football. The Chargers ranked 31st in pass block, 32nd in run block. So for me, I don't think Justin Herbert's really gonna have much time in the pocket. He's gonna be screaming like a little girl back there, and I think Houston covers on the road.
I agree with you. I'm also riding with Houston. This is my dark horse team in the AFC, honestly. I mean, as the sweater, you can tell I have a favorite, but if there's another team that I think that has a chance to really make an impact in this conference, it's Houston, and it's because of that defense. I mean, they are disgusting. Obviously, against the Raiders, they didn't look as great. I mean, a 14.5 point spread, that's tough to cover for any team. And I mean, obviously, with the Raiders, about how bad that they've looked offensively the last few weeks, I can see why, and just how good Houston has looked. But plus 1.5 spread is underdogs going against a team that, like you already mentioned, Nico, a team that has really hard time blocking, especially the most important position on the football field. Will Anderson still a top 5 PFF player in the edge position. It's going to be a long day for the Chargers offensive line. So, and a really big factor about this game though is how CJ Stroud is really going to perform. I mean, let's not take away this Chargers defense either. They're also really really good. So, it really is just going to be a matter of if Houston's offense can really step it up. They had the opportunity to last week against a really bad Raiders defense and they weren't able to capitalize. So, they really need to do that this week, but with the power of this defense, I still think that they're going to be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, you definitely can't discount, how bad that Chargers O line is, but to the defense of the Chargers here and not putting money on them because done that far too many times this year and it hasn't paid off. But gonna defend them here going -1.5. I think that this is a game that could be decided by a field goal. Both defenses really being the bigger key to everything. But if you look at some of the Chargers' recent wins, excluding Dallas, of course, that was pretty dominant. But against Kansas City, Philadelphia, those were games where it was just all really gritty, games that were not pretty to watch at all. And those were games where you did have a lot of pressure on Herbert the entire time. So I think this is really nothing new that they haven't had to prepare for yet. And I think that defense here is gonna really be the key to whoever wins the comes out of this one on top. I think Stroud has been in a bunch of. He's just been incredibly inconsistent. Last week he didn't play well at all, regardless of that Texans win. I think that defenses here are going to give each other a bunch of trouble. And I just think Herbert's the better quarterback to kind of lead a drive to be a little bit more successful just offensively than Stroud is.
For me, my player to watch in this game is going to be Dalton Schultz. You're talking about a guy that in back-to-back weeks has scored, and in those two games he has a total of 13 targets. Kind of been that more of like a safety blanket option. And as you said, I think the Chargers, they do have a good defense as well. And I think that you kind of like the Keenan Allen role for the Chargers is kind of what Dalton Schultz is. He's that 7 yard guy, just take the target. And yeah, so I think Schultz could find the end zone, but at the very least he's going to get a lot of targets.
I am actually going with the Charger. I know I'm very, very high on Houston this week. I still am. I still like them in this game, but I am going with Keenan Allen as my player to watch. Last week against Dallas, I also took him last week too. 5 targets, caught all 5 of his targets, 44 yards. He only had 9 fantasy points, but however, this week he is playing for incentives. That's just a thing to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure he only needs a few catches or receiving yards to get it this week. So I mean, I see Herbert really targeting him a lot to kind of hit that. So also he's just kind of if Lad and QJ aren't necessarily getting open, you're gonna try to get to the slot guy. And I mean, Keenan Allen's the most experienced one in that receiving room, just for how long he's been there, and especially being a part of that offense. So I like Keenan Allen this week.
Going with the Chargers defense for one, do want to go back to actually what I said, saying that Stroud didn't play well at all last week. I mean, obviously completion percentage wasn't horrible, but I think he's been incredibly inefficient with opportunities, especially with the Raiders defense that isn't necessarily bad, but you got a lot more chances here to make that game more winnable than 3 points. And granted, Genty did have a day, but going here with the Chargers defense, we've seen them in solid not all year, but as of recently, they've been pretty respectable. And with Stroud, just not incredibly potent offensively, outlying that Arizona game. I think that there's going to be a lot of chances here to make him kind of just make some bad reads. And again, I think defense is ultimately just going to be the key to this game. And this is a real toss up to me in terms of the matchup in general. I don't think either quarterback is necessarily going to have a stat line to remember. But I'm going to go and roll ahead that Stroud will be the less efficient quarterback compared to Herbert this week, with the Chargers defense playing the factor. Sorry.
And moving on. Now traveling. I scrolled down, but we're going to Baltimore, traveling to Green Bay. Green Bay is -3. We're seeing both teams with some injury woes to the quarterback, Jordan Love. Both Jordan Love and Lamar left their previous game early. And one thing that kind of went post podcast, and we established a rule because of it now. But I did end up flipping to the Packers last week over the Bears. And new rule, we can't do that after the spreadsheets are posted on social media, like that _pod to see those graphics. And the Lions was an unlucky one. You know, the Gainwell touchdown that I mentioned, the end of the game fiasco. But I was out this weekend with some friends, and I remember I took Green Bay, and I'm having a good time on the dance floor, and I'm showing my friends the scores. I'm like, I see Green Bay up 16-3. There's like less than 10 minutes left. I'm feeling good. A couple drinks in. I feel like I'm gonna make a bet. I feel like my last 2 beers were free. And then I wake up the next morning with not only an insane headache, but I also see the highlights of what happened at the end of that Packers game, and that just such bullshit. I mean, I kind of love it. Like for the Bears, it's a cool narrative, like it's a cool win for them. But what a bullshit way to lose a bet. I mean, the fumble in overtime, just the Astor class of the last of the fourth quarter, that really got me mad. So even though I'm so pissed, I'm on the Packers this week at -3. You're at home. You're a better defense. Like the Ravens, we saw they kept it close with the Patriots when Lamar wasn't in. But I think even with Lamar playing, he's not going to be at 100%. And I think with Lamar having that injury problems, or with those injury woes, I don't think the defense can really do enough there. So the Packers, if Jordan Love is playing, which it looks like he is, I think they cover -3 pretty comfortably. Like this is a line that I would probably entertain to like 5.5.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think this one safe enough for me to take a little bit higher than that. Yeah, Lamar injury woes are really unfortunate, and we saw that Drake May just in crunch time with that game just dotted that entire defense up. So while they did keep it close, they had a lot of mislaps, and I think that Jordan Love knows that there's is not his reputation, but you want a good get back after blowing that Chicago game. But shout out Jade Walker anytime touchdown. That was one of the more random wins that I've had. $5 on that, and that was a cool little cash. But also leaning here with Green Bay. I know Baltimore does have, I guess, the last remaining hope here to play in this game, but I just think that this is a Green Bay team that overall is better. And not overall is better. I think everyone knows this team is better than Baltimore. And at home, I got really no reason to defend Baltimore for any reason. I think Green Bay takes this one by at least, well, we'll take that -3 and run with them a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also on Green Bay, and to kind of take up your point, Nico, with the Baltimore defense, we did see last week. I mean, they really did make some big plays against the Patriots. They had that interception. They forced the Drake May fumble. It was looking, as a Pats fan, it was looking rough for a little bit. But that fourth quarter collapsed. I mean, Drake May just were dotting them up the last 2 drives of the fourth quarter. It was really, really bad. And yeah, I mean, that whole Lamar injury fiasco, I just saw he didn't practice today. He was held out. He was the only Ravens player held out. So even if he does get activated, I don't necessarily think it's going to make a difference. Ravens are playing for their season. They're basically fighting it out with Pittsburgh to see who's going to lose first. If Baltimore loses, I'm pretty sure that they're out. That's it. They're done. So I like Green Bay. I think that defense, even with all their injuries that they've had the last few weeks, and that really, really tough loss against the Bears last week, I think they're looking out for blood because they also need to win out because that division's very tight too, and they're close with Detroit too. So if they lose traction in the next 2 weeks, it could get pretty interesting. But I think this Packers offense is much better with the healthy Jordan Love.
And from there,
I was
we
gonna
move
say
on to
nobody's. I thought one of you guys was gonna say their player to watch.
yeah, no,
And then,
I'll go into it.
yeah,
Yeah, player to watch. I thought you were gonna just take over there. Player to watch here, gonna go Jaden Reed. I know we took him last week, and I think I've taken him week prior to that as well. And I'm gonna keep taking Jaden Reed here until he has his game where he kind of looks like he's back to being the guy he was, maybe not last season, but reliable enough to the point where he's getting the same volume as he did last season. Baltimore, again, that defense has a lot of lapses. I think Dobbs is going to draw plenty of attention there, and I'm just waiting for Reed to have one of those jet sweeps where he breaks away and gets a big play for a touchdown. And again, I'll take him here. I'll take him next week too until he has that game.
I am running with also a Packer. I'm running with the same guy I had last week, Romeo Dobbs. He found the end zone last week. Going with him again this week. Kind of been, the difference maker for this season in the receiving game. I mean, last year he had a lot of problems. I forgot that he got literally suspended from the team last year because of just his utilization. And he's really had a breakout year this year. Kind of been known as that deep threat for this Packers offense when Christian Watson really hasn't been able to get going. So I like him again this week, especially against, if Jaden Reed really is getting all of the coverage in this defense, I think he can have a pretty big game.
Yeah, I'm with Brooklyn on Jaden Reed. When he was healthy, this is, I would say, their distinguished wide receiver one, and I agree. He's slowly getting work back in, but there's going to be a week where he has a lot of production, and I think it's going to be this one. Moving on, my almost pick of the week, if we're going to be honest, and it's a crazy one, so bear with me here, but we're talking Seattle at Carolina, and you might be thinking pick of the week's going to be on the Seahawks. No, hell no. I am with the Kitties this week, baby. The Panthers, let's not talk, the big narrative for them this year has been that they haven't, they've covered the spread every week as an underdog, and they open up at home at -7. They've played better at home, and it's a team that, Seattle, don't get me wrong, they're still fighting for the 1 seed, but Carolina hasn't made the playoffs since, I think it was 2017. They definitely need to win this week. And they play Tampa next week, so if they lose this week, they go into next week with Tampa fighting for the division. But this is a Seattle team that, a crazy Thursday night game, maybe game of the year. But we've seen them in the past struggle against certain defenses. Like you looked at the Colts, that was a bad game for them. And I look at this Carolina team, and the D-line is there. They've been very good against the run, and they've got a top 2 corner. I wouldn't say top 2, but J.C. Horn is a top 10 cornerback in the league. And so if you can shut down JSN and the D-line can take care of the run, I think that the Panthers can definitely cover a 7-point spread.
I agree with you there. I like this Carolina team. I'm pretty sure. Sorry, I'm seeing.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
You
I
took
did.
the Seahawks.
Yeah, I was gonna say you
I
don't
took
like the
I
Carolina
took
team.
Seattle because I was like, I did take the Seahawks. I actually still do like the Seahawks in this game. I know this is a team coming off playing against a 44-year-old Unk, and they weren't able to find the end zone, but necessarily saying I still think this offense is really, really good. And I know this Carolina defense has a tendency of when they play really good offenses, they tend to lock them down. Looking at that Dallas game, they also had that huge Packers win at the beginning of the season. That's kind of when everything turned to tides for them. But Seattle, though, coming off a really big win against the Rams, they are now trying to outwin against LA and San Fran, who's right there. I think Seattle's going to have a really good game plan going up against Carolina. And this defense kind of concerns me with Bryce Young. Not necessarily saying that he's not going to be able to actually have some production, but if this D line is able to get to him in time, and not to mention, like, these corners are so good. I'm kind of concerned for Tet, only because I do have Tet in a fantasy championship this weekend, and I don't know if I should start him or not. I'm just concerned. I'm more concerned on the defensive aspect for this game. I know the same thing with the Colts offense, though. I mean, highest scoring offense through the first few weeks, and they only scored 13 points against the Seattle defense. Rams, though, I know last week they dropped over 30 points, but the Rams to the Rams. So I see Carolina, if the game plan runs the right way is what I'm envisioning. I just see this Carolina offense having a really hard time, maybe not getting down the field, but getting to the ball into the end zone.
Just a little off topic, but who else would you start instead of Tet?
Right now, I'm torn between Juwan Jennings or we move someone to flex and then Michael Carter.
I think
That's not. I don't think that's bad, really.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's interesting. I almost do
Yeah.
lean slightly Juwan, but I think you can't go wrong between starting Jennings or Tet this week.
No, I know. It's a toss up. It's definitely a toss up.
Well,
Uh,
let me go ahead and defend the kiddies here. +7. Uh, I can't discount the fact that Bryce Young has had his weeks, but also really has just been Bryce Young. But I also can't discount the fact that the Panthers just made Baker look incredibly inefficient last week. Only held to 145 yards through the air with a receiving core that's just gotten healthier and healthier. Like Buka did all but one big play, and that was it. Mike Evans hauled in a touchdown, but was kept to under 40 yards. Like that defense has shown up time and time again. And overall, I think Baker is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold, in my opinion. So as much as the Seahawks do have all this momentum moving their way, I like the way Carolina's been playing with a lot more sort of just on the line for them right now. Each game is pivotal for them to win. And I think that even if they aren't the better team in this matchup, there's a lot of understanding. Like we got to keep this as close as possible, obviously, and of course try to win. But I think that defense deserves their respect, and the way that Carolina's been playing offensively has been a major upside compared to what we saw to start the year. And they've really started to pick things up here. Bryce Young has his moments, and he's a wild card, man. He could very well come out this game and see the field real well. And I don't think Darnold is just nearly that good of a quarterback. He's just got a good receiving room around him. So give me Carolina here to keep this within 7 and maybe not win, but I think they'll keep it close enough.
I think
Also, my player to watch. Sorry,
no,
I
no, no.
did forget to mention. I am going with the Panther. I do like Jatavion Sanders though in this game. I mean, he's kind of been a guy that I've been looking at the waiver wire for all season. I mean, very young tight end. The production's there. Once in a while, he'll get some targets for Bryce. Last week, found the end zone, crucial touchdown also last week. Um, last 2 weeks of the season, I see him getting a little more production, especially if what I think is going to happen, and that's the Seattle D line is able to pressure Bryce Young. It's going to be a lot of quick throws, and I see the tight end getting a good amount of them. So just someone to keep in watch. I know there's a few tight ends that have tough matchups this week. Also, a few major ones are on IR the day before the playoffs championship start, but he's a good option.
I like Jalen Coker this week. I think that this is going to be a script where, I mean, seeing them as dogs, I think they are going to have to establish something through the air. Again, that Seattle defense, it's good everywhere to be fair, but if there's one point I am going to like pick on, it's going to be the secondary. So Coker, last couple weeks we've seen some big performances, and if it's not Tet, it's going to be Coker.
I like JSN. I think he's gonna have a good game. No. Gonna go with a different Seahawk. Another reach here for the TikTokers out there who don't like the fact that we take good players to have good weeks. AJ Barner, we saw him a whole lot last week against the Rams, especially with a pivotal. I believe he was involved in a tush push where he was the tush. And then also he was involved in a 26-yard touchdown that really kept that game close and honestly was the reason why Seattle was able to make this a comeback. Previously against the Rams too, he had 11 targets, 10 receptions, and 70 yards. Didn't score, but both of his biggest games of the year both coming against the Rams, which is super interesting to me. This one is one that's no different. I think JSN is going to have his targets for sure. Maybe he might have his game as usual, but I like AJ Barner here to kind of step up and with a receiving room that's really been just kind of weird with Cooper not being anything crazy. Rashid Shaheed is more of a special teams threat than anything else. I think EJ Barner can kind of back up JSN here to possibly have another week, and I think he might even get in the end zone with the Panthers team that's going to have their hands full with JSN.
And for the last time this episode, we have a button.
We got a pick of the week.
We're gonna get a little battle of Florida here. Tampa at Miami. Dolphins plus 5.5 at home. But my pick of the week is going to be the Bucks. Last week, just if you were listening 5 minutes before, you talked about Brooklyn describing Baker Mayfield's performance against that Carolina defense, and it was not anything sharp. But I think this is a very obvious bounce back situation here. A Miami team that in the last 2 games 0-2 against the spread and has allowed 73 points. Ewers. First NFL start last week against the Cincinnati Bengals. Shout out Nick's pick of the week. But 15 points, which was more than I would have thought. But at the same time, that's a Cincinnati defense that has been free for everybody. So I think this is a good bounce back for Baker. I think this is going to be a really big game for Bucky. We saw again last week a lot of production out of the running back position from Chase Brown. So I really think Tampa not only gets this win, but in a very large fashion. I would take this line at like 7.5 if we're going to be real. But going back to it, I just think that this Dolphins team, they're not really playing for much. It sounds like Mike McDaniel's job is secure no matter what happens this year. And again, script-wise, I think that there's nothing better than for the NFL for them to go into Week 18 and have a Tampa versus Carolina must-win to take the division. Tampa's minus 155 to make the playoffs as is, but they need to win out. So I think they take care of business in Miami with no problems.
Yeah. Sorry, I can go. Yeah. Yeah. For the Bucks this week, I mean, the Miami defense was not competitive whatsoever. Got absolutely dotted up by Joe Burrow and Baker. You know, while that team has kind of come back down to earth, he's still been a hell of a competitor out there. He's got legs. We saw him He had I forget what his longest rush of last week was, but I think it was over 20 yards. With that being said, you know, I agree. This is a get right game for them, and with that receiving core again getting healthier and healthier week by week, I see another big breakout game here for someone between Bucky, Mike Evans, Godwin, and Egbuka. But for this week, I am going to highlight Bucky for my player to watch with Nico. Almost like a Jaden Reed pick, been kind of just waiting for him to find that moment again where he shows off what he was earlier in the season. And obviously coming off that injury, missed a lot of time. But perfect example here for a get back week for Bucky. You know, that Dolphins defense allows around 130 rushing yards a game. Little weird with how they're splitting the backfield right now. Tucker getting a lot of those goal line carries, Rashad White getting mixed in. But I still think you got the talent in Bucky Irving, the explosiveness. He should be primed to have a good week this week.
And I want to put a hit on Sean Tucker. I have Bucky Irving in some fantasy championships, and I was screaming last week because the amount of times that the Bucks got on the goal line, and then you'd see Bucky walk off, and you see Sean Tucker bring that ass in, and oh my God, I mean, he's up there with like the Zach Charbonnets, the Tyler Algiers, the Blake Corums of the world.
Tyler Algier comparison. Blake Corum, yeah.
They're just here to steal your fantasy points, and I can't have it this week. So if there's a player not to watch, it's number 44, man. He's wearing 44. I mean,
a gross number for our running back.
No gross. I'm also on Tampa this game. This is a team I talked a lot about last week. I was very high on them at the beginning of the season. They looked really good to start off through the first 6 weeks. And then after that Bills game, maybe it was my bad voodoo in general at the time. I kind of like cursed them after that Bills game. That was rough. But this is kind of like what you guys already mentioned. I'm not going to go too much into this. Get back game. To touch upon Brooklyn with the receiving room, I do think like if there is a time where you need to get your receiving room clicking, it's against this team. Like it's against a team that just got shelled by 30 points last week against the worst defense in the league. It's the rookie QB's, was it second, third start now? I don't even know. Second start. And Tampa's defense is nothing to play around with either. I mean, they're a really, really good defense despite their record. I mean, they still have Vita Vea. They have star players on that defense. To go along with that receiving core, my player to watch, Chris Godwin. I mean, since coming back, he hasn't really you haven't heard his name much, but if you watch a Bucks game, he's there. Last week he had 6 targets. He's out targeting Egbuka, that's for sure. And I don't know if it's Baker relying on, old reliables, going back to Evans and Godwin, but I mean, if the production's still there, and especially against a Miami team that's lacking in the secondary, I like Godwin this game. I think it's a good plug and play flex option.
Moving forward, we have a divisional matchup that if you said this around like week 7, I think we would have been really excited for it, and that's Jacksonville at Indianapolis. Colts are plus 6.5. I'm taking Jacksonville at minus 6.5. Why? You saw them put up 30 against a Broncos defense that is up there as a top 3 defense in the league. And the Colts the last few weeks, the defense is really it kept them in the Seattle game. But you saw on Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers that they didn't have to punt. It was just a complete and utter dominance on that side of the ball for them. And for me, it's Jacksonville has been a top 10 defense, and the offense is clicking much better than Indianapolis. So I'm confident with taking them as a 7-point favorite or 6.5-point favorites.
I am as well. I'm also leaning on Jacksonville. I was the only one on them last week, and fuck you guys.
I should have been,
Uh,
man. I don't know why I wasn't. That's a bad thing on my part. Like I screw the TikTok comments. I'm still not a Bo Nix believer. You know, if there are no Bo Nix haters on this planet, then I am dead.
And a big difference maker in that game, if I'm gonna be honest, Travis Etienne, man. He has had definitely one of these seasons that he's needed. Coming into the offseason this year, there was a lot of talks he wasn't even gonna be RB1. And looking back on that, that's kind of crazy. He's had a crazy, crazy season. Big key to that Jacksonville offense is why they're able to flow so well. And I think that's gonna catch up with this Colts defense. I mean, this is a team that just let up 40 points dropped on them against the Niners defense. They allowed Brock Purdy 5 passing touchdowns. By the way, first Niner in I think like 30 years to have 5 passing touchdowns. So pretty crazy stat. Yeah, Jacksonville's on a hot streak. They just beat a team that has won 11 straight weeks in a row. I don't see that slowing down against a 44-year-old Unk. Again, Philip Rivers, Christmas time, 1 out of the 50 million kids is probably out there playing catch with them right now to get warmed up. Don't matter, though, when you're going against T-Law. So, yeah, I'm taking Jags. And player to watch this week, too, Jacoby Myers. I'll never die on the Jacoby Myers hype train. Patriot for life will always be. And not only that, he's just looked good in this Jacksonville role, whether it's BTJ getting locked up, no matter what, he finds a way open, and especially against this Colts secondary, I like him this week.
Riding with you here for Jags -6.5. You can't really defend what I just saw out of that Colts team. I just saw that defense. Like, oh, like how many yards total was let up? Over 400? And
Probably,
Brock
dude.
Purdy throwing like what 4 passing touchdowns. And granted, Rivers played a very respectable game in that. Aside from the pick 6 at the end, like that's a high stakes moment. There's a lot that is plenty of errors to be made. So can't fault that offensive unit for the Colts for that loss, but that defense looked god awful. And now you're going against that defense that just shut up the Broncos and finally ended that win streak for one. Oh my god, I was so happy to see that happen, even though I was defending him on the spreadsheet. But that defense shut down. That not shut down. Well, actually, 17 points is anything too crazy. The Browns outscored the Broncos last week. That's nuts. But 17 points allowed by a team that was on a roll, right? And now you're looking at a Jacksonville defense that's definitely scary to play against, but a Jacksonville offense that is absolutely terrifying with how Lawrence has been playing recently. There's not too much to say here in why I shouldn't defend the Jaguars, right? Lawrence has been on a tear. Jacoby Myers has been fitting into that role very nicely. Parker Washington has just been a boom for them so far. But my player to watch this week Brenton Strange, yeah, and my player to watch is going to be BTJ, and I know it's a weird one to say that he hasn't produced necessarily ever since coming back, and honestly through the entire season. But this is kind of a game where I think he can step into that role and be like, remember that depth chart still says wide receiver 1 for me for a reason. He's a guy that there's a lot of hype around that he should be playing so much better, and I think this is a game where what we just saw from that Colts defense, he could be primed for finally what is the week that I think fantasy managers for him and honestly the Jaguars have been waiting for.
Yeah, I'm with Nick on Jacoby Myers. He kind of went into this, gets traded and immediately he's, been fighting Parker Washington for wide receiver 1, but he gets consistent targets. And I can't wait to watch this game because I love watching Philip Rivers throw the ball because it looks like it hurts every time. Like I was saying to Brooklyn during the game that if there's any guy that makes a guaranteed noise when he throws the ball, it's Philip Rivers.
It's him. Yeah. I can see
I love seeing his celebrations after a touchdown. It's just like, booyah!
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's what he's
You
saying.
see that NFL clip of he just goes like 90-yard
touchdown!
So
Zero
funny.
swearing in his trash talk, just straight up like rage bait. Like,
Yeah.
It is so hard to root against him. Like it's just fun to watch when he's out there.
Hey,
excuse me,
first
Browns
drive
did
of
not.
that Monday night game, they went right down the field and scored.
Mm,
It looked
mm.
good for a second. Not gonna lie.
Shout out Alec Pierce. And yeah,
I was
also
gonna say
excuse
shout
me,
out Alec
Browns
Pierce.
did not outscore the Broncos. Both scored 20, but to me, woof.
Woof. Another
Woof.
another big matchup we got here. Philly traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo at home, and they are favored -1.5. I know when we originally did this, they were underdogs, but -1.5. A Philly team that is, we talk about them week in and week out. They're rolling, but like I don't know how much momentum you're gonna give that. It's working, but I feel like you're walking on eggshells every time.
The
Whereas
sputtering car.
and you could argue the same for Buffalo. Some weeks they look like a team that is going to go far, and other weeks, like you look at last week, nearly took a loss as a 10.5 point favorite. And you could take the recency bias there, but this is a Philly team that is born and raised on running the ball, and that's been one of Buffalo's weakest points. They still average over 144 yards allowed rushing on the ground per game. So I didn't even think about this one twice. Philly is I know they're on the road, but Philly is an underdog with that run offense. I think they take care of business, which does make things pretty interesting for Buffalo when you talk about playoff seeding.
Yeah, this spreadsheet, it hurts for me to type in Philly +1.5, knowing that honestly, in a situation where it's +1.5, the Eagles will likely win that game, except for the Rams, where they actually covered +1.5 with the spread. But the version of the Bills we see every week is so inconsistent. And last week, I know we shit on their defense, and honestly, as much as Harold Fannin did have a day against, or not have a day, but 2 touchdowns there for the Browns against that defense, like they didn't honestly get killed by Shador. But what they did, lose by, or not lose, but the loss to me for the Bills there was that the fact that their offense didn't produce. And, I know James Cook had his day, but Josh Allen, I think under 150 yards passing, and we give the Browns defense their respect there. But now you're going against a Philly team that just is just well rounded. And with AJ Brown catching fire recently, Devontae Smith always a dangerous weapon there. Goddard has been consistent. Barkley has been catching fire, and Hurts is. They're all finding their rhythm at the right time. I think that this is a dangerous matchup for Buffalo. And honestly, if I were to take -1.5 here, it would be completely just off of bias. I don't think Buffalo is going to have an easy win here, and if they do, they might just barely pull it off by a field goal. So going Philly +1.5 here, kind of comfortably with that. And my player to watch this week is going to be Dallas Goedert. I know I could say Saquon, I could say any receiver for the Eagles, but I am just going to go with the tight end here, knowing that that's going to be a safe option where he's going to get his targets. And depending on the version of the Bills defense you see on Sunday, anyone on that Philadelphia Eagles offense is primed to have a big week.
I'm also on Philly here. I think I didn't think twice about this. Not even just because I'm a Patriots fan. Just because this Philly defense against a Bills team that has had a lot of troubles protecting Josh Allen, it seems, in the last few weeks, especially against that Browns game. Josh Allen, he doesn't look to seem to be 100%. He did get pretty banged up in that Browns game. Myles Garrett was there the whole time. And I see Jalen Carter being a big factor in this game, too. They don't have Ed Oliver this game either, so that's huge for that Bills D line, especially when it comes to trying to stop the run game, which they already have an issue doing. Yeah, I'm going with Philly all the way. Even at a low total too, at 43.5, I see this Philly defense really doing a good job of the whole everybody gets a touch on offense style, not necessarily playing in their favor this week. And then my player to watch, however, is a Bill. I've had a few of these this week, but forever it is not Dalton Kincaid. It is Dawson Knox. And I'm only saying that because Dawson Knox needs one catch, 35 yards, and a touchdown to receive a 300K signing bonus this season. Could be this week, next week, don't know. But
No, you do know because it's this week. That's why
I
you
do
wrote
know
it
because
in.
it's going to happen this week. They're at home. A lot of these QBs like to help out their guys, especially with Dawson Knox. He's been on the team a while. One catch, I feel like that's more realistic. If he does find the end zone, awesome.
Dustin Knox gets a shot for one catch in the end zone. He might hold on to that ball.
He might, dude. Yeah, I'm just.
Oh,
All
That's
I'm
a
saying
that's a
is,
$300,000 ball.
can you picture the script right now? Like 34 receiving yards. Oh no, Dawson Knox down there. It's a
Frankly,
35-yard bomb to Dawson Knox to the red zone. Touchdown.
frankly, I don't know if he does the receiving yards this game. The catch, sure, but the receiving yards a little wonky. I think Kincaid's will use a lot more for those midfield plays, and Knox is there within the 10. Just he's got to hold on to the fucking football.
But I'm going with Dawson Knox, especially just because the incentive, the incentive thing I mentioned earlier, but it's always key factors going into the last 2 weeks of the season because it is true. The QBs like to look out for their guys. So
His
Real quick
his
before we move
yards
on.
line is 17.5. His reception line is 1.5.
Well, before you say your player to watch, Nico, I just want to say, why I say plus 1.5 for Philly. Still go Bills. Never gonna root against my own team, but I can't say I'm betting on them this week.
Yeah, that's completely fair. My player to watch, kind of a spoiler for my prop pick later this episode. But again, when you look at the stats, you look at the schemes. This is a Saquon Barkley him game. I'm luckily not facing him in any leagues in the championship, but I made a risky shot on Jamar Chase last week, but I think Saquon can comfortably rush for over 100 yards this week. I think a 30 piece in fantasy is not out of the realm at all.
Saquon Barkley must see TV. Get that to 11,000 views
Saquon
on
Barkley
TikTok.
30 bomb. No, I can't do it again. But
Yeah,
Just
no.
do it again.
but
Yeah,
Same
no, it
exact
doesn't
goal.
work that way.
we are believing in the quads this week. That's for sure.
All right, I like it.
And then we've got Sunday Night Football, another great matchup. We have the Bears at the 49ers, a total of 52.5. Pretty crazy line there. San Francisco -3. I personally, you're coming off that big game on Monday Night Football, but I'm sticking with the Bears here. For me, Caleb Williams has just been so prolific this year. I know last week, I talked about the frustration I had betting against the Bears, but this is a team that all season has proved doubters wrong. Caleb has been able to, work his way around the pocket, and I really do think, with all the injuries the Niners have had, they still have a great record, but a lot of that's been on the offense. Their defense is not good. I mean, you saw Phillip Rivers, willingly throw the ball downfield, and it worked a decent amount. So, taking a 44-year-old arm and putting that behind a former first-round pick who's leading the NFC North, I don't know. I think Chicago takes care of business.
I know earlier this week I had said to the guys, I was like, hey, might be taking plus 2.5, +3 for the Bears as my pick of the week just because of how great that team has been playing. And when I see them as underdogs, I kind of think that it's just a little disrespectful to how they've been playing. But nevertheless, I'm a flip here to the Niners. Going -3, you can't not acknowledge how the Bears have been able to just come back from some of these games where they just shouldn't be there. But at the same time, this Niners offense has just dominated the last 5 weeks. Purdy's been seeing everything so well. We saw against the Colts five touchdowns. And the one pick that he had was, late in the game that kind of fizzled out really early for the Colts. 3 touchdowns against the Titans and against the Browns team. They put up 26, Carolina 20, and Arizona lit them up for 41. Still 3 touchdowns, no picks there. Brock Purdy's been crazy in his own right, but Christian McCaffrey, we've seen that he's been a little inconsistent and inefficient with his rushing carries throughout this entire season. But he had a day this past week. Depending on Kittle's health, obviously going to be a big option. Even Jawan Jennings, as much as he is not, some crazy deep ball threat, he had his fair share this past week and even got a touchdown there as well. So this Niners offense has so much momentum moving for them right now, and the Bears defense, while they've stepped up, I still think there's kind of room to pick them apart, and I think that's exactly what the Niners will try to do with this flow.
I'm with Nico here actually on Chicago. Both of these teams 10, basically Niners 10-5 against the spread, Bears 10-4-1, both same identical record. But both of these teams basically play the same against the spread. However, the Kittle injury I think is really more detrimental to this offense than some people think. I mean, he was lighting that Colts defense up before he got ruled out. He almost made me lose my fantasy championship. Shout out Chris, by the way. Thank you. I actually would have not be in the fantasy championship if he didn't get hurt. Hate to say it, but uh, aside from that, though, this Bears defense has shown, especially like we saw Saquon not really be able to do anything against this Bears D line. I'm not necessarily saying that McCaffrey's not going to be able to do that, but I think this Bears defense is a lot better than people give the credit for. And yeah, I know Nico was complaining about that whole Packers downfall and the whole fumble and everything, but that offense, they led the comeback 16-3. And I don't know, man. I just think the Bears are kind of on a roll. I think Ben Johnson has really figured out what works for Caleb Williams in that offense to make him a little more comfortable. Um, 44-year-old Philip Rivers still was able to put up almost 30 points on this Niners offense no matter what. And Purdy had that pick at the end of the game too. So he is seeing everything well, but I mean the mistakes are still there. And I think this Bears team can capitalize it, especially with that whole Monangai and DeAndre Swift rushing duo. I mean, one of them can rush over for 100 or they both can. You really don't know. And we kind of saw that against already a good run defense. So I like Chicago in this too.
And really quick here before you jump in, Nico, I forgot to add this also. I want to just talk about my player of the week so we can just transition from this game.
Keep
But
forgetting that.
I know the Niners defense. You look at them and it's not a great unit, and they did let up a lot of points to that Colts team into Onk. But they also were able to limit, and I think this was probably their job, limit JT in that last game. He had only about 2.9 yards per carry, 16 carries, and under 50 yards rushing for a guy that we know has been the piece for them overall. So I think that this Niners defense, while it's not great, especially not great on paper, it gets a chance to show up here and really figure out like how to plug some holes for this Bears offense that I think has all been generated by Caleb, in my opinion. So my player to watch for this week, I actually am going to go with the Bear, DJ Moore. So as much as I'm saying that Niners defense is going to figure out a way, I think DJ Moore is also going to figure out a way. He's been picking things up pretty explosively recently. We saw he had that game-winning touchdown against Green Bay last week, and I think that relationship between him and Caleb starting to grow a little bit more, and at the right time, at the right time too, as they come down to a close. So I think DJ Moore could be primed to have another big week against the Niners defense that hopefully will still win by 3, but DJ Moore has a week as well.
Yeah,
I'm going with the other bear. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Okay. I'm going with the other bear. Going with Luther Burden here. I know Rome, he's been having some injury issues the last few weeks. Luther Burden, he's definitely taken a step up in this offense. Ben Johnson's figured out how to utilize him, especially with his size. If Rome either doesn't play or doesn't get as many snaps this week, I like Luther as a good plug and play option, especially against this Niners secondary. We saw what Alec Pierce just did to them 2 weeks ago when they don't really cover the slot. So, I mean, I could see it happening again.
The perfect script, maybe not for Brooklyn here, but for Nick and I. Bear with me on this, the 52
what
and
you did there.
52 and a half. Oh, I didn't even mean to do that, but that works. 52 and a half point total. This is going to be a lot of points. And we see DJ Moore as a player to watch. We see Luther Burden as a player to watch. But who's throwing it? It's going to be the guy that finishes top 5 this week, and that's Caleb Williams. Again, the offense, it does rely heavily on your quarterback, obviously, but I think he has a top 5 fantasy finish this week. And by doing that, he's going to throw touchdowns to DJ Moore and to Luther Burden. And it's happily ever after as the Bears cover. Sorry, Brooklyn.
T-Mac can have 5 touchdowns this week. I'm just letting you know now.
300
300 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns.
Last matchup of the week. Monday Night Football, Rams at the Falcons, 7.5 point spread. Rams team that is number 1 against the spread this year. A Falcons team that has picked up steam the last couple weeks, but I'm not with the Birds. I took the Cardinals last week, and there were a lot of things that pointed that did not go Arizona's way that could have very much changed that game script. But the Atlanta team, they've done good against beat up or bad defenses the last couple weeks, and you're talking about a Rams team that we've said previously. You're competing with the Seahawks. You're competing with the Niners. 7.5 is a little steep. The Falcons' defense isn't the worst. I know sometimes, at the beginning of the year, they were a lot better. It's been a little, wishy-washy the last couple weeks. But I personally think the Rams just take care of business on Monday Night Football. And I don't know. I think they win this game by somewhere around 10 points. Like I don't think a touchdown is like I love this line at 6.5, almost a pick of a week, but going to 7.5, a little bit more skeptical. But the Rams are just the best team all around, and Kirk Cousins has been playing well, but again, I think against some pretty injured defenses.
No, I agree. I mean, also let's not forget that this is an Atlanta team that was led by Kirk Cousins that did lose to the Saints not too long ago either. So I mean, the whole inconsistency of this offense is there. It's a primetime game. 49.5 for a primetime game is pretty high. That's probably mostly on the Rams side. I mean, last week we did see this Atlanta pass defense play like they were playing through like the first 6-7 weeks of the season. Just kind of locked down. Jesse Bates had a really good game last week. Sorry, I like ruined the whole vibe off of that. That's so my bad.
No, you're great. You're great.
um, I think the whole goal is that they're gonna try to get Matt Stafford to throw it, force some mistakes, but I really don't see that happening. I mean, Stafford's been having an MVP like season this year. I did see a report that Devontae Adams is probably going to be shut down the last 2 games of the season. I mean, if I'm the Rams, I kind of I see that happening. I mean, you're already in the spot where you're in the playoffs, and I mean, if you lose the division, it is what it is at this point. You're gonna have to roll with the guys that you have. You want you want the main red zone target to your MVP season quarterback to be healthy going into the playoffs. So I can imagine that, but I don't see the whole Devontae Adams injury being a big factor in this game. So I like the Rams -7.5.
Oh, you want to do your pick of the week real quick? Or sorry,
Oh
play of
yeah,
the week?
yeah. Play to
Player to
watch
watch.
this week. Might be a little obvious. Drake London, but I mean, this is also a guy that's been injured the last few weeks. He's finally starting to pick up some steam back in this offense. I mean, even when he did come back the first week, he didn't necessarily do much.
I
But
need it so bad. I need a Drake London game so bad.
Even before he got hurt, he wasn't really having the season that he was last year. I mean, Drake London last year was a top 10, if not top 5 fantasy receivers some weeks. So, this year, finally starting to get some production towards the end of the year. It's kind of a tough matchup for them. But then again, like we just saw what JSN and the Seahawks receivers were able to do last week. Then again, though, this isn't the Seahawks offense. So, but I still like Drake London. I still think he's pretty capable of at least getting a decent amount of catches and some yardage.
I want to do a tally later after we finish recording. How many times you picked a team on the spreadsheet and then went player to watch on the opposite team?
I almost
That's me
wanted to.
included. That's me included because I'm doing that as well.
Yeah, I think for this week alone, I've gone with 4 players that are on the opposite team of the team that I'm picking.
I think it's more than. I think it might be like 5 or 6. Like
not 6 or 7.
No, 6 or maybe like 6 to 8, but nothing between there.
All right.
Yeah,
All
no. Rams -7.5. Not too many reasons to not support the Rams after seeing how the volume still scoring wise is just lethal with Devontae still being out. Now that's still a big hit, and for now, Puka's shouldered that load on Thursday. There was Thursday, yeah. Sorry, with all these Saturday games, I think I'm like, did we have a Friday night game? Did we have a Wednesday night?
When Puka balled out on like Wednesday night, that was cool.
But it's going to still be a heavy factor for that offense having to navigate without that number 1 red zone target. But I still think that overall that defense is sound enough to force some mishaps. But that's all I can really say is that offense is very strong because I don't want to ruin my player to watch, and that is going to be Kirk Cousins. This is a weird one to take him in, I know. But this is going into week 3 of Kirk really starting to produce. We saw against Tampa Bay, Arizona, he was playing way above his projection there. And I think you put Stafford and Kirk, 2 guys who got a lot of experience in this league, with that Atlanta defense stepping up a little bit. And I'm not saying Kirk is comparable to Stafford by any means, but things have been picking up. Kyle Pitts, do we think that this is Kyle Pitts? Like this is what we were waiting for?
Better fucking not be. I waited 4 years for this. It better just be a fluke, because I'll be fucking
in the last
pissed.
4 weeks of a meaningless season.
I'll be so mad.
But yeah, no, Kirk Cousins, a guy I know he's been playing well, and it's hard for me to really say that, these go hand in hand between player to watch and the spread pick, but I think it's possible for him to play better than people are projecting, especially now that that offense is starting to find a little bit more rhythm down the stretch.
Mine's not flashy. Mine's not the coolest thing in the world. I just think Kyron's going to have a good game on the ground. They're going to be set up in the end zone at some point, and he's going to get the carry in, or Blake Corum's going to ruin my pick. But I'm confident in Kyron. But time for a little rapid fire round. We have 6 games this time because we wanted to make a little bit more time for our Christmas lists. So my best Chris Berman impression. Here we go.
Wait, I have this. Yeah. Hold on. To start rapid fire.
The poop game of the week.
That's right, everybody. Christmas Eve football. The Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs. A plus 13.5 line for Kansas City. We haven't seen that since 2007, but a total of 36.5. It's going to be ugly. Again, Chris Aludakun first NFL start, and I really don't like this at all. I already mentioned how I think the Chiefs are going to have under 12.5 team points, so I'm taking Denver pretty comfortably, even though I don't like Bo Nix, and I think the Denver defense, if there's any week for a defense to get a touchdown, I'm not going to place the bet, but I think the Denver defense is going to have a really nice game. Moving forward, we have the Patriots at the Jets, 13.5, another crazy big spread. I know Nick's wearing the sweater, but I really think that this Jets team, they're going to have to cover a spread at some point. They're like 0-3, I think, in the last 3 weeks, with the majority of the money always being against them. And I think New England's going to win the game comfortably, but I think 13.5 is a little steep. I think this could be a really bad one where I think the Jets cover by at 12 or 13. Then moving forward, I know the poop game of the week was Denver and Kansas City, but Pittsburgh and Cleveland, honorary poop game of the week, total of 33.5. It's bad. But I think Shedeur, if the pinky's okay, I'm riding with perfect timing, baby. I think he's going to have a good game against this Pittsburgh team because what has the Steelers team been all year? A team that 1 week makes you think, wow, they're really good, and then the next week, it's the complete opposite. Keep going. We've got the Cardinals at the Bengals, a line of 7.5, the highest total of the week at 53.5. I bet on Arizona the last couple weeks. Again, they were close last week, but that defense has not been great, and Joe Burrow is good against bad defenses. I also forgot never mind, sorry. Yeah, I have Cincinnati, no problem, and I know I said Jamar 30-piece last time. He had 12 targets, 20-point game, but Jamar, I need you. I need you this week. Then we're going to the Saints at the Titans. Titans are plus 2.5, and I am not there for them. I gave a lot of shit to the Saints early on in this year, but Tyler Shuck has been that guy. I think he takes care of business on the road. He's also my player to watch. Oh my God, another really bad game. Giants at the Raiders. Raiders plus 1.5. They were favored. No more Brock Bowers. I still think it's fine. They looked better against that Houston defense, and that Giants team has been struggling as of late. No Bowers. This is a Trey Tucker great game opportunity. And that's it. I could have kept going, man. I'm on fire.
Wow.
That was nice.
There were some really good one-liners.
We can keep the order here. I think I go second, and Nick closes it out. Imagine we just do the poop game of the week sound every time we get back to the top of the list.
Yeah, dude, that'd be crazy.
The poop game of the week.
Yeah, Denver and Kansas City. You got a QB3, a guy you've never really heard about getting his first official start against one of the best defenses in football. Nothing crazy to say about the Chiefs here. Denver defense going to light it up, and I think that Troy Franklin for the Broncos is going to have another chance here to prove himself. He's gotten a lot of target share. Last week was his highest snap percentage. Really, all I got to say about that, Denver should see that in a landslide. Moving on, we do have the Jets versus the
and Troy Franklin player to watch for you.
I said that.
Sorry, I have bad ears.
That was like the last thing I said. You just want to mess up my time because you did it so quick. You're like, I can spit.
I'm sorry. Keep going. I'm closed.
Jets versus Patriots here. Jets a very non-competitive team right now with Drake May leading a charge in crunch time. Just shows how efficient he is when the pressure's on. This time the pressure is not on at all. I think it's going to be him having a lot of fun out there. That Pats offense is going to absolutely dominate, and that Pats defense that didn't look great might have a chance to look real good against the Jets. I'm taking minus 13.5. That game should be a blowout. Player to watch there, Adonai Mitchell. Really one of the only things that has been clicking for that offense is that he's developing a little bit of a connection with Cook, but ultimately nothing crazy other than that. Moving on, we do have Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Actually, going to go Pittsburgh with this one. I like the experience of Rodgers to kind of make this a game that is going to at least be maybe covering by a field goal. I don't believe in Shador. I don't believe in that defense. Got real lucky there against the Bills, even scoring 20 points in a really weird way with Harold Fannin. Overall, all eyes are going to be on Myles Garrett, but I do think that that's always kind of the thing that you're focusing on now as an offensive lineman is to not let him get to your quarterback. So I like Pittsburgh, even with DK being out, finding ways to kind of win that game and should be covering by a field goal to me. Player to watch there, Chris Boswell. He's going to do it at the end. Field goal, going to cover the spread. They're -3, maybe even push that to 4. We'll see. Going there now with Arizona, Cincinnati. High-scoring game. Joe Burrow coming off a great week. Brissett, not so great of a week. But nevertheless, both defenses have not been very great. For this one, believe I did take Cincinnati -7.5. Yeah, banking on Jamar to have that week at some point. But for me, player to watch, I'm gonna go Michael Wilson. He's been more efficient than Marv this whole season, and now with just that offense being so desperate, we saw that crazy touchdown he had in the first quarter of the game this past week, and I think he's gonna be another target that Brissett goes to pretty reliably. Tennessee versus New Orleans. Going with Cam Ward here. I like the experience of him being a starting quarterback much more over Tyler Shuck. He's had his moments, don't get me wrong. Shuck's been very respectable, but I think this is kind of a toss-up. But I do like Tennessee coming off a big win against the Chiefs. And I know the Chiefs are complete nobodies right now, but anytime you beat the Chiefs, I feel like it means something to especially that franchise, to Tennessee. Getting that safety, by the way, that was a really weird play. Last game,
Wild.
this is what I think this should have been the poop game of the week. Giants versus the Raiders. Holy shit, Jackson Dart. What was that? 7 for 13, not 33 yards to the air, and somehow you did log a touchdown. Ugliest game I think I've ever seen in my 23 years of living from any quarterback ever. But nevertheless, this is a Raiders team that does let up a lot of sacks, but Gentry's coming off a huge game. I got no problem taking the Raiders here to be, well, I believe they flipped to dogs now, right? Yeah, so I got no problem taking the Raiders here, especially with the Giants competing for the number 1 pick. No reason for them to kind of just accidentally play like shit. Ashton Genty, my player to watch coming off that week, should be primed for another big one against a Giants team. That just sucks.
Nice. All right. Last but not least,
The poop game of the week.
I didn't know if you were gonna do it for yourself.
no,
I
it's
was
even
like,
better.
gotta happen.
It's okay, because we just need to emphasize how bad this game is, especially on Christmas Day. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, Denver at KC. I am on Denver. Denver loves the sack. I think they're going to get a lot of the sack this game. RJ Harvey, my player to watch last week against Jacksonville, he had 121 scrimmage yards. Pretty sure he had like 70 receiving yards. He's kind of an all-around player for this offense. I really think he took a step up, and I think heading into next season, he's going to be the RB1. So really like RJ Harvey here. I like Denver. Patriots at Jets plus 13.5. I mean, I'm wearing the sweater. What does that have to tell you? Huge win on Sunday Night Football against the Baltimore team. Everybody thought that the Patriots were going to lose. Fuck all of you. We go into Baltimore. We win by 4. Last time that this team played, they actually won by 13. So why not just win by 14 this time? Heading down to MetLife concerns me only like a tiny bit because in Patriot lore, we suck in MetLife. But this Jets defense sucks. I like the Patriots here. My player to watch, though, is Breece Hall, only because Milton Williams has been activated off of IR. Not playing this week, though. So, if anything, I do see some garbage time rushing against Breece Hall. I don't want to hear anybody, though, saying, that's an obvious start. Fuck off. A bunch of people were probably benching Breece Hall the last few weeks. So, I don't want to hear it on TikTok. Anyways, Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Rolling with the dog pound here with Cleveland. Obviously, DK Metcalf getting suspended for 2 weeks. That's kind of big. I know he wasn't necessarily used in the offense. He barely gets targets. But, I mean, when you're talking about a guy that helps in the run game, run blocking, I mean, you want DK Metcalf on your team, especially his size. Not having him for 2 games and all the money that he's losing, that sucks. 33.5 total, though. Holy shit. This is going to be a stinker. Player to watch though, without DK, I like Calvin Austin this game. He's also been getting a lot of targets from Aaron Rodgers, just in general, even with DK there. But I think this is a good excuse to actually get him flowing a little bit in the offense. But like the dogs here. Arizona and Cincinnati -7.5, rolling with Cincy, 53.5 point total. Holy shit. I mean, both of these offenses, when they're clicking, they're really, really good. I think this Arizona defense is obviously a tad bit better than this Bengals defense, even though this Bengals defense sucked. But they looked good last week against a struggling Miami team. But I just see Joe Burrow kind of going off. My player to watch also, Jamar Chase. I don't necessarily need him for anything, but I do think that this is the week that I had picked him last week to score and he didn't. I was really shocked that he didn't, especially against a bad Miami team. So I got him this week against the Birds. Saints at Titans. Holy shit. This is a team. I honestly, this is this is one of the games where I wish I didn't have to pick. But I am going with the Saints here, -2.5. Tyler Shuck, same thing as going on with Nico. He's been getting it done in the last few weeks, and he's actually in consideration for me to start in the fantasy championship this weekend. It's between him or Stroud, so that's kind of tells you everything in my situation right there. But rolling with the Saints. Last but not least, Vegas at, or excuse me, Giants at Vegas. Vegas favored -1.5. Now Bowers hitting on IR. That only makes me hate my life kind of a lot, but it's okay because I still think, I mean, if you're Vegas, you're kind of licking your lips going up against this Giants offense. I mean, they fucking suck. Jackson Dart, ass. Tyrone Tracy, ass. Devin Singletary, ass. I don't know what it is. It's just, it's bad. It's all around bad coaching. Yeah. I'm rolling with the Raiders here. Player to watch, Michael Mayer, because honestly, I don't know if anybody else has this problem. When I watch a Raiders game, I always get the two tight ends confused. Two big white guys. But one of them isn't going to be on the field, so you can kind of tell who it's going to be this week. So rolling with Michael Mayer.
Yeah, their numbers are also pretty close too. That's what you see the 8 and you see a white guy and you're like, oh,
Oh, Bowers. Nope.
and then
No.
yeah, it's the guy from the fucking
Close enough.
Halloween movies. But yeah, so that's our spreadsheets for this week. Picks of the week again. We have Nick taking Dallas at -8.5, Brooklyn taking Detroit at -7.5, and myself taking Tampa -5.5. Going to our props. Actually,
Wait.
It's prop time.
yeah, there's no music with that one. I feel like I should add that. But our
Yeah.
prop of the week, outside of it, excluding our Christmas lists, my prop for Sunday, I mentioned that I think he's going to have a really good game. I'm all in on Saquon Barkley. I took his over at 84.5 rushing yards at -113. Last 3 weeks, he's averaging 111 on the ground. And again, I talked about how I really don't like that Bills defensive front and what they've allowed to the running back position. And especially, too, in the last 3 games, he's had over 20 carries in all 3. So I think that this is going to be a game for Philly that's just going to be all about Saquon running through the trenches.
Well, going with another quarterback prop here that I took. Well, I say now that I've taken, I think 3 quarterback props in a row here. But last week, kind of a bust with just Stroud, just. Bleh. But this week, gonna go with a team that comfortably airs that ball out plenty of times throughout the game. Jared Goff over 240.5 passing yards, currently sitting at -115. You can say what you want about how respectable that Minnesota defense is, but this line has hit 5 of his last 5 games. You can talk about law of averages, sure, but Lions average through the air a game at 255. Right around 255 yards. We'll leave it at that. Previous meeting against Minnesota, though, again, talking about that defense, but Goff still had 284. And through his last 5 games, he has averaged over 300 yards passing. So, for me, it's going to be plenty of chances that they're going to play to their strengths. That team lives through the air, through deep balls, and through the accuracy of Jared Goff. And this game is going to be no different for that. Don't think they're going to really be rushing too much unless they're trying to save Monty, but overall, feel very confident in 240.5.
I am also rolling with another QB. We're all very highly on the Bengals offense this week, so I am taking Joe Burrow over 23.5 completions. That line's at -122 on DraftKings. The Cardinals ranked 22nd in defense. In the last few starts that Joe Burrow has had, Looking back on it, he has started against Baltimore. I mean, the Baltimore Buffalo, both games against Baltimore. Sorry, his last 3 weeks: Buffalo, Baltimore, and Miami. I mean, he's hit this line every time. It's been close though. 25 completions the last 3 weeks. However, though, he's thrown the ball 36, 39, and 32 times. So I mean, he is slinging it out there. So the possibilities up there of him hitting this line is very highly. Not to mention Chase Brown, he still gets a lot of touches in the receiving game, not necessarily the run game. Also, the dude needs to have fun. So just let the guy throw the ball. I mean, he needs it. He said it himself. That he's just trying to have some fun. Maybe throw it to Jamar a few times, especially T Higgins, because I do need it this week too. No, I need it. Nope, shut up. Don't shake your head, Nico. I need it. I need it. So, but yeah, I like Burrow completions, especially against a struggling Cardinals secondary. I think he hits this line pretty easily.
Put those all together in a parlay that is plus 533, and I'm very optimistic with it. I know last week my prop didn't hit because JJ got hurt, but before he
All of our I don't
we went over
mine
3.
didn't hit
Yeah,
either.
we
Yeah.
might have had a reverse sweep last week, but that was a lot of
Yeah.
unplanned things happening in that game of Brissett really not playing that well through the air, and CJ Stroud again just stinking it up. McCarthy's injury got voided for me, so but nevertheless,
Not for
Yeah.
me. It
we
was
move on.
Yeah, we move
Bullshit.
forward. But that's all for this week. Socials, as always, are going to be like that _pod. And keep it short and sweet, guys. I hope everyone has a happy holidays. I hope our Christmas lists obviously come back pretty successful here. But yeah, enjoy some time with the family, and I hope that we're watching some good football this weekend.
Same, dude. I'm praying for it. I'm not. Tomorrow I'll be sweating the first 2 games, and then a nice Christmas night. I get to relax and watch a nice Christmas movie. So
I
that'll
mean,
be
hey,
nice.
Favorite
my
Christmas movie? Go.
Jingle all the way.
Home Alone too.
I was gonna say Home Alone 3. It's kind of like the non.
Home Alone 3?
Yeah.
That's
think they're-
crazy.
they're
I've never
getting
heard
better
someone
at
else say they
upgrade.
like that movie. I love Home
I
Alone.
love that. It's not with Kevin, but I love it.
Who gives
Nico,
a shit?
Nico, where's the light in that room? I mean, I know my shades are closed, but I got these top ones though. But
Oh, I try
You're-
to make it dark.
you're a vampire right now.
Yeah, well, for the podcast lighting, it's better.
I don't know about you guys, but I got some snow coming down too. We're getting into the Christmas spirit right now.
You know, you would think when you live close to Canada, where the lake effect comes in around this time of year, you'd be seeing plenty of it. But it is nothing but sunshine today. So
Yeah, no white Christmas near me. It's just a much Christmas. Just got all the leftover. There's like barely anything left.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it does. It's my backyard's like kind of mushy. It's not very.
Hey, though,
exciting.
next episode is gonna be the first one of the new year, 2026.
Oh yeah. So
Hell
then, how
yeah.
about any new? Do you have a resolution already picked out?
I'll get back to you next week.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
Trying to enjoy this week first.
you can't go wrong with saving some money, man. My next year's resolution is just put a lot of that paycheck away every week. You know.
Oh yeah,
I want to run a race, but we'll talk about that next episode.
maybe hit some bets. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I'll have a
scam
real one.
But yep.
Hit the casino more.
Happy
That's
ho-
black
At least
more.
once a month.
happy holidays from the Like That Pod, and we will see you in 2026.